Hey everyone, let's work on this number of days. So here we are going to have some kind of int number for the month, and we want to understand how many days are in that month. So we have, let's see, we have basically the data right here. So these are the months with 30 days, and these are the months with 31 days. And for February, we're actually going to go ahead and assume that we have 28 days. Okay, so let's make our main method. And we are going to start by declaring that number. So we'll just say number, or I guess we can call it month. And again, this could be any number here, but we will handle that as needed. So for this one, switch is another good use here. We could do this in a multi-branch array. There's definitely other ways that we could have set this up. We set up the booleans, like check the boolean values. But the switch is going to be very useful here. So let's set that up. We'll set the switch where we check by the month, and we kind of know all the values that we're looking for. There's a couple ways that you could write this. So the one approach is you could write this by case 1 at a time, case 2, case 3, and you could have basically wrote like, is it 31 days or 30 days? Like you could have basically wrote that result over and over again. What I'm probably going to do is make a day variable, and the days, I guess, is going to be determined here. So for example, I could say days equal to 31, and then I could say days equal to 28, and then I can say days here is equal to probably 31 again, right? So I could just repeat that for all the months. That's fine. But you can start to notice that, I'm just repeating myself. Here and here, it's the same thing. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so then we figure out, let's do it a different way, right? So if you did that the first time that you wrote this code, you wrote all of them one at a time, that's fine, okay? That's still valid, and you should always try to solve the task first and then optimize and improve it later. So if you were able to solve by doing it that way, that's fine. That's good for the first time. But we can always learn and improve. So after you do that for all of the cases, you'll notice that you're just repeating yourself, right? Every time there's 30 days or 31 days, you're just assigning it too much. So there's a couple options, okay? The first option could be, instead of repeating this part of the code, you can actually group up your cases. So you can say, okay, case 3, case 5. Okay? You can basically, let's get rid of that one so there's no duplicate. But in this case, anytime it's one of these cases, the day of 31 will be assigned. And of course, we should make sure to break, because remember how the switch is executing. The switch says, when you match a case, start execution from that point until the end of the switch or a break statement. So it means at the current moment, we have, if it's 1, 3, or 5, if one of those is matched, the days will be equal to 31. Right? So this is another way to do it, and we could just organize all of the months that we need, basically these here. Let's just move it up for quick access. Based on these values, we can basically just group them up. So 1, 5, 7, 8, I could just stack all of the cases like that in the beginning. Okay, but there's even one more step to simplify this. We can just use commas basically and organize them. So instead of putting multiple cases, which this works, right? But instead of that, let's just put comma and then put all the values. 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, and 12. 12. Right, so for all of these cases, then the days will be assigned, right? And that's just a simpler approach to it. I'll break this, and now we can do our last one as well. So case for, basically, we can probably just copy this. Right, so for our cases 4, 6, 9, and 11, our days is equal to 30, just 30, and not anything else. And we can actually still fit our default case in here, because what if there's an invalid kind of result? Then we can say that our default is, I guess we can just make our default equal to, so this is the thing, actually, we don't really need a default case. It depends on how you want to do it. I'm actually going to choose not to use a default case. The reason is because if the days was staying 0, that's when it's invalid. So I'll just handle that afterwards. Okay, so I have all my days. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and put my result here at the end. So if my days is not equal to 0 or more than 0, any of those, if it's more than 0, it means it's valid. I'm just going to print whatever days I have, and then I'm going to concatenate the word days. Otherwise, I'll just show that the result is invalid. Or did we say something specific? Yeah, I guess we just said invalid, right? We'll just say invalid. Okay. So yeah, that's good. And then this should work for everything. We can run it and test. So for example, the month of 1 has 31 days. If I change that to something like 11, for example, for November, my result is 30 days, and for February, it should be 2 days. 28 days. Perfect. So that's working. I just want to emphasize as well, so this is just one other way that you may see a switch statement, so it's important that you can recognize the different syntax of switch when you do see it. It depends on the versions as well. If you use a normal kind of approach where you just do one case at a time and then you put a break, or you organize them, or you use commas, like all of these are just different syntaxes, and they all kind of matter on which versions you use as well. If you use older versions, you're going to see just normal one case at a time kind of approach. But that being said, IntelliJ is also warning us and saying that we can go ahead and use that enhanced switch, which is basically using that arrow syntax that we saw, right? So if you wanted to put it this way, it's almost the same thing, okay? It's almost the same thing. But the difference is, we can go back, instead of assigning like this day is equal to 31 and putting a break, it's replacing that whole thing here with this arrow syntax and then the result of the value here, right? So the days is still being assigned, but it's being assigned after like the whole switch basically. So you can do this. What I'm probably going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to keep this one for now. And then at the bottom here, I'll just put a comment of this version as well. So we should be comfortable with all of the switch syntax. So it's important that we can understand that this is the same thing as this or any of the other approaches that we talked about today. So hopefully you understood everything. If you have any questions, make sure to always ask. See you on the next one.